So if I start in the panel builder, we will create a new application. However, I want to mention that there are a number of sample applications included in the tool. There are 3 types of samples. The ones that start with demo are demo applications, which includes most of the functions available in software, as well as they have a very nice graphical design that you can use for inspiration when developing your own applications. There are the ones that start with sample. These are more tutorials that explains how a certain functionality is configured and how it works. And finally, there's also script samples that shows how you can use C# scripting to realize some different functionality like UDP communication or writing and reading text to a file. But in this case, I will create a new project and a wizard will then appear. From this wizard, I can select what kind of panel I would like to develop my application for. When I click on a panel, you will notice that there are some technical information available, such as resolution, display size, number of network ports, etc. But in this case, I will select PC. And from the drop-down list, I can select which resolution I would like to develop the application for. It's also possible to type in a customized resolution as well. I also like to mention that it's possible to convert an application from PC to panel or from panel to PC, and also from different panel sizes. So just because you have selected a certain platform, you can always decide later on to convert it to something else. In the next step, I decide which controller should be the default controller in the application. And as you can see, we have a very extensive drivers list. We support more or less all of the major players on the automation market. For an example, Siemens, Allen Bradley, and of course, most importantly, ABB. For the ABB, we have drivers for the AC31 and AC500, which are Modbus based. We have Comly, both master and slave support. We have support for the freelance, control network, and total flow controllers as well. During this demonstration, I will connect to a soft controller, AC800M soft controller running on my PC. So I will use the control network driver. It's also possible to connect to OPC Classic, OPC DA server, or to an OPC UA server as well. Finally, I click on Next and I give my application a name. And I click on Finish. The application is now constructed and opened in the editor. As Ricken mentioned earlier on, the software is based on a ribbon menu, very similar to the ones that you will see in PowerPoint and Excel, for example. Each tab in the ribbon menu has its certain functionality. I will now go through the most important ones. So in the home ribbon menu, you have your objects. So objects means, for example, a circular meter, a button object, or an analog numeric, for example. Some of the functions that is supported by this software, similar to PowerPoint, is you have snap lines, which makes it easier to align objects to each other. You also have the possibility to select multiple objects and changing common properties in just one single action, which saves a lot of time when developing your application. In the General ribbon tab, you will find the object-specific properties, the ones that are unique for the selected object. So if we look at the circular meter, you will notice that you have settings for the minimum and the maximum value, values that defines the low, mid, and high region, etc. If I select the button object, you will notice that I can now change the button's text, for an example, or I could select a picture that I would like to display in the button, and so on. If I select my analog numeric object, I could, for an example, add a suffix or change the presentation format to decimal or something else. So general ribbon tab is always the object specific and unique properties. And then finally, very important tab is the one called actions. With the actions, we can define what should happen when, for an example, clicking on a button or any other object. So if I select my button object, then click on actions, I can define what should happen when clicking on this button. So that would mean, for an example, I would like to show screen number 1 when clicking on the button, and it's configured like that. So home, general, and actions, very important when you start working with this software. To the left, you have the Project Explorer. The Project Explorer contains, firstly, all of the screens in the application. You can add additional screens by clicking on the Add Screen button in the upper left corner. And I will add a few screens like that. If you click on the lower part of the button, you can actually also see that there are different types of template screens that can easily be imported to your application, containing menus, diagnostic screens, and so on. And these are predefined and available directly when you install the software. In the lower part, you have the different functions available in this application. So that means alarm server, multiple languages, security, and tags. Those are the ones that are available by default. If I want to configure tags, I just click on the icon and the tag grid will appear, and I can then configure it. But we will look at that a little bit more in detail later on. To the right, we have our component library. The component library contains pictures, symbols, etc. that you can use in your application. So by expanding the different folders, you can see what kind of graphics that are available, and when you find one that you would like to use, you can just drag and drop it to your screen. If you're looking for a specific icon and you know the name, you can also filter by typing in a text. So in this case, I will find my warning icon and add it like this. It's also possible to create your own groups of objects and store it in the component library so that you could reuse it later on. So if I, for an example, select 4 objects, right-click and select Group, right-click and select Copy. Then I will select one of the folders in the component library. I prepared one called ABB Training. Then I can right-click, select Paste. And as you can see, I have a new group here called Group 1. I could rename that if I want to. And I can just drag and drop that to my application and reuse it in that way. And this is also available for all other future applications that I will develop. In some cases, you might want to import your own vector graphics. The vector format supported by Panel Builder 800 version 6 is the SAML format. So the vector symbol needs to be in that format. A tool, there are many tools available that can generate that kind of graphic. Is, for an example, Microsoft Expression Design. So in this case, I've prepared a symbol that I will export and make available for the panel builder. So I just need to select the symbol I need to export it as a SAML file, and I need to decide where it should be stored. I will store it on my desktop and give it a name, and then I click on Export All. Now this SAML file is generated, stored on my desktop. I go back to the panel builder, right-click on one of the folders and select Add Component. Then I just need to navigate to the desktop, select the SAML file, and then finally I can add it to my screen, as simple as that. So it just takes a minute or so to import your own vector graphics to the software. And the nice thing with these libraries is that you can share them with your colleagues or customers, and by that you can build your own libraries and in a very efficient way develop your applications.